In early June, Sergio Perez's contract extension shocked the F1 world. The Mexican driver was given another 2-year deal by Red Bull, and speculation as to why was everywhere. Many thought that it may have been a power move by Christian Horner to get one over Helmut Marko and his junior drivers. Others thought that the money he brings in due to his influence in the Americas and the lack of competition he offers Max Verstappen were the reason. Now though, the real reason has been revealed and it has completely blown open 2024's drivers market. Today, I'll tell you why Red Bull actually signed Checo to a new contract, why it's absolutely screwed him, and what the implications could be. So, don't go anywhere. Sergio Perez's new Red Bull contract caught many by surprise. The 2-year deal, which is broken down into a guaranteed 1 year and then an optional 2nd year, was a surprise considering the number of drivers who were available on the market this season and the talent Red Bull have within their own team. Daniel Ricciardo could have been an option, though Yuki Tsunoda has appeared the more competitive of the two V-Carb drivers. There's also F1 point scorer Liam Lawson and F2 championship leader Isaac Hadjar on their books and looking for a 2025 F1 seat. While Perez has been an excellent servant for Red Bull, his performances on track are inconsistent, and considering the talent at Red Bull's rivals at the moment, having two top-tier drivers seems vital to securing the Constructors' Championship. Putting aside his contributions to Red Bull off track through marketing potential in the Americas, Perez is not at the same level as any of the Mercedes, Ferrari or McLaren drivers. When the team announced the contract extension, they were very clear about why they were signing him. "We wanted to ensure continuity in the team," Helmut Marko said. "Max and Checo have a good relationship and a good understanding of each other, so I call it a logical choice. Checo delivers. He has his ups and downs, but he is still a fast driver. He wouldn't be at Red Bull if he wasn't at least a capable driver, but the main reason for the extension was that he doesn't upset Verstappen's apple cart." That hasn't changed as the season has gone on. Perez isn't going to be challenging Max for positions anytime soon. While that wasn't a problem when Max was winning every race and securing enough points to win the Constructors' Championship on his own, the competitive landscape of F1 has changed, and Red Bull now have potentially the third fastest car, or at least have two very competitive rivals. Mercedes and McLaren's impressive in-season upgrades have brought them into the battle with Verstappen for race wins, and if Perez isn't picking up big points to help in the Constructors' Championship fight, then Red Bull have a problem. It is a problem they are very aware of. Asked after the British Grand Prix about Perez's continuing failure to contribute to Red Bull's Constructors' Championship tally, Red Bull team boss Christian Horner said, "He knows it's unsustainable to not be scoring points. We have to be scoring points in that car, and he knows that. He knows his role and his target, so nobody is more eager than Checo to find his form again." Since the British Grand Prix, which was Perez's third Grand Prix weekend without points in the last 5, leaks from within the Red Bull team have revealed the real reason he was given the new contract extension. Red Bull would reportedly only sign Sergio Perez's contract extension if the Mexican driver agreed to a new performance clause, which would be active as soon as the new contract is signed, rather than when the new contract came into effect at the start of 2025. The clause that was leaked shortly after the contract was signed is that Perez must be within 100 points of Verstappen in the Drivers' Championship by the summer break, in 2 races' time. If he isn't, then Red Bull have the option to terminate his contract, and at the moment, he trails his teammate by 137 points. The details of the new clause being active immediately were revealed to Jeppe Olesen by a Red Bull insider. Jeppe did highlight that it's also worth remembering that performance clauses are optional, meaning Red Bull can choose to exercise it, but they can also choose not to. It's no guarantee that Red Bull will make changes mid-season. If the details of the contract are correct, getting Checo to sign the new contract was actually an excellent move. If he continued performing well, as he had done in the opening 6 races, then they would guarantee that continuity and stability that Helmut Marko spoke about. If he wasn't performing, which is the case at the moment, then they could terminate his contract during the summer break and potentially bring in someone else. Looking at Perez in a bubble, his position at Red Bull looks extremely tenuous, but a broader look at the Formula One market shows he may be in a safer position. Red Bull lacks a really tempting option to replace Checo with within the team. If they are going to move on as they pursue the Constructors' Championship, then bringing in a rookie in his place would be a risk. Liam Lawson looked promising during his short stint as Daniel Ricciardo's replacement last season, but Isaac Hadjar is very unproven. The pressure on both drivers to perform better than Perez did while Red Bull battle with Mercedes and McLaren could be enough to break them. Instead, Red Bull would probably want to promote one of the VCARB drivers. That is why Daniel Ricciardo was brought back to the sport after all. The problem is that Ricciardo does not look like the driver that Red Bull hoped he would be. He has been soundly beaten by his teammate Yuki Tsunoda so far this season, but Red Bull have shown absolutely no sign that they want to give Tsunoda a drive at the top team. In the build-up to the Hungarian Grand Prix, Tsunoda was asked if he felt ready to fight at the front of the field. "If I'm not ready, then I wouldn't have been able to announce the next stint even at VCARB. I'm feeling ready to fight against the top teams, higher positions, and even Max." If Perez continues at his rate of 2.5 points per Grand Prix weekend, which is what he's managed over the last 6 race weekends, then Red Bull might not be left with any other option than to promote the young Japanese driver. Red Bull have been putting Liam Lawson through his paces recently. The New Zealander ran 200 kilometers in the 2024 Red Bull car at Silverstone for one of the team's 2 yearly filming days. Red Bull also announced weeks ago that he will also get a run in one of its 2022 cars. This is understood to be scheduled for the final week of July at Imola, which will be a further chance to evaluate his form. If Red Bull do pull the trigger and let Checo go mid-season, then any replacement will have to come from within the team. The likeliest scenario seems to be that Tsunoda gets a promotion to Red Bull and Lawson steps in at VCARB. If Red Bull were to wait until the end of the season to make a decision on Sergio though, Carlos Sainz could be an option for 2025 if they wanted him. Though they'll have to compete with a few other teams who are interested in the Spaniard. It is understood that Alpine is one of many teams to make an offer to Carlos Sainz, who remains a free agent for next year as his Ferrari deal ends. Pierre Gasly, who will remain an Alpine driver next season, has been employed by his team to try and convince Sainz to move to the French squad. He said that he'd done his part in trying to sell the project to Sainz, but that the decision was the 3-time Grand Prix winners to make alone. "I did my fair share of the job, and ultimately I believe in the project we're building at Alpine," he said. "You know, I always back the team up, but now it's up to him to make his own decision." Alpine have not looked like a team worth signing with in recent years, but over the last 5 races their performance has improved, with Pierre picking up points in every race he started. Aston Martin are still faster on their day, but those days are coming few and far between at the moment. While the Red Bull seat has given Sainz something more to think about, the Mercedes seat is still the most interesting for him. Mercedes have won back-to-back races to confirm their return to contention at the front of the grid, joining Red Bull, Ferrari and McLaren in having triumphed during the first half of the season. After Lewis announced he would be leaving the Silver Arrows for the Scuderia, the logical option for his replacement seemed to be Sainz. But as time passed, the Silver Arrows appear to be leaning towards the youth of Italian teenager Andrea Kimi Antonelli to drive alongside George Russell. The problem with that plan, though, is that aside from a sprint race win at Silverstone, Antonelli's results in F2 have been largely underwhelming, leaving doubt as to whether he's ready for F1, let alone a drive with one of the top teams. With Mercedes now looking more like the team that dominated F1 for 7 straight seasons, Mercedes boss Toto Wolff may now want the strongest lineup possible, rather than risking losing points as Antonelli adjusts to F1. Speaking about his driver options for 2025 at Silverstone, Toto said, "I don't want to make a decision quickly, but yes, he is. If we have more time to decide, Carlos is definitely still a chance, but Carlos needs to make a decision on what he does with the other teams." One of those teams that Carlos needs to make a decision with is Williams. They, along with Sauber and Alpine, appear to be waiting on Sainz to make a decision before they commit to filling their seats for 2025. There is only so long that the 3 teams will wait, though, before they decide they don't want to be strung along anymore. Williams boss James Vowles gave the first hint that he was getting a bit fed up with the waiting game recently. "What I would say is this. What I want is a driver that also wants to be a part of our journey, that wants to really understand what Williams is about, both the old and the new, and wants that to be at the heart of what they're doing driving-wise." He went on to say that he won't have Williams used as a stepping stone anymore. He only wants drivers who are there for the long haul to help make the project work. That Williams seat, as well as the one at Alpine and Sauber that are still available, are all places that Sergio Perez could find himself as well in 2025. If Red Bull were to sever his contract over the summer break, then he'd be an option for all of those teams. While his performances at Red Bull might not have been impressive in recent races, he could still play a big part for a midfield team, as he did at Force India and then Racing Point for so many years. Remember that Pierre Gasly, Alex Albon and Daniel Ricciardo have managed to come back from having a tough time alongside Verstappen at Red Bull, and have all found a place that they are needed and wanted, some to a greater extent than others. Before Red Bull, he was regularly able to make the most of the small number of podium chances that appear each season for a midfield team. That win at the 2020 Sakhir Grand Prix, which earned him a Red Bull seat, is the perfect example of this. Perhaps more important is the technical knowledge and feedback he can offer to a midfield team, with aspirations of being more than that. Sauber, who will soon be Audi, Williams and Alpine all want to be front-runners. Having spent the last few years helping Red Bull develop their championship-winning cars, Perez can indicate the areas that a team lower down the order might be lacking in compared to an outfit at the top of the pile. In terms of his own performances as well, the midfield might be a better home. The reduced pressure in a midfield environment would take the weight off his shoulders, and Perez may find that he's able to produce more consistent drives without the increasing scrutiny upon him. With Carlos Sainz causing a stall on the driver's market for now, Perez might still have time to not score points at the next two races, get fired by Red Bull, and negotiate a new contract with another team before any other announcements are made. So while his time at Red Bull could be over sooner rather than later, his time in F1 doesn't have to be. Do you think Red Bull will replace Perez mid-season? If they do, who will get his seat after the summer break? And could he find a seat elsewhere, or is his reputation too damaged? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and until next time, drive safe and bye for now.